Good morning, good morning. Can you hear me? I hope you can. Thank you very much. I have to say, Carlo, I'm glad the 51.34% do recognize men still, and that we're the only two men on this whole program for the next couple of days. So thank you very much for recognizing us. We really appreciate it. I'm going to talk to you about branding, and I want you to relax. You don't even have to take notes, because after this, I'll share a link to you for my fourth book called Accelerate Your Brand, Mastering Your Brand. And that will be given to all the delegates attending. I've got 20 minutes. It's quick. It's effective. I want you to enjoy it and learn more about branding and strategic partnerships. So we are our own brand. You may work for a company. You may be part of a community, may be part of a bigger organization. But at the end of the day, you are your own brand. Branding starts with us as individuals. And you become what I call brand incorporation. Because at the end of the day, people, and listen to what I'm saying, people buy us. People buy you. They do not always buy the product or the services. They buy the trust that you create in your brand. So my friends, if you're not on social media, but even if you're on social media, but not for the right reasons, you are missing huge opportunity. Because at the end of the day, there's so much happening every day, every second, every hour, every week, and every month on social media. And I'm going to show you, in quick and effectively, and afterwards you will read my book, complimentary, on how to use this power of social media to build the brand that is you. So what is brand incorporation? Well, firstly, it's a unique promise of value. It is something that you put out there as an individual to your customers, to your clients, to your prospects, as part of your client acquisition platform. It is what you are and what you do and what you promise that you're going to provide. It is being authentic, and that is a critical one. Are you authentic in what you do? You have to be you. You can't be somebody else. You can't try to be the next Kobus or somebody else. You have to be authentic across all platforms. So it means that if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on Twitter, if you're on X, if you're on TikTok, if you're on Instagram, does people recognize you as who you are? Or does people recognize somebody else you're trying to be? The brand is when you do not have to introduce yourself. Now, what do I mean by that? It means if you go to that network opportunity at the golf club breakfast, at the Tupperware party, at any network opportunity, do you have to introduce yourself, or does people know who you are already in your community? That is what is a strong brand. It means it's what people say about you when you leave this venue today, or when you leave that network opportunity. How does people feel about you? How does people feel about the advocate that has done an incredible speech now? That is building a brand. It is the reputation that you stand for. And brand is all about reputation. Brand is all about perceptions. Now remember, we don't want a negative perception, to become a reality. No, we want your brand to be real and be reality. And therefore, when you build a reputation, when you build a brand reputation, do not play with it, because that's you, and that is your product, it's your service, and it's what you're going to provide out to the community that you serve. And then it's important that your brand must differentiate you, and you must stand tall. You must stand out. Now, what do I mean by that? It doesn't mean I'm tall, I'm standing out. It means you need to be recognizable in a community. And when I look at this community here, there's somebody very recognizable, Charlotte. And that's somebody that stands out. Because I always say, if there's yellow roses, and many, many yellow roses, do we identify with any of them? But does somebody become the red rose and stand out in an audience and stand out in a community? That is what you want your brand to be. So personal brand best practices is about authentic storytelling. There's nothing like storytelling. When you brand yourself on social media, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, are you telling a story about yourself, about your reputation, about what you do, about your service? Or are you being boring out there? Don't be boring. Use authentic storytelling and be authentic. It's a consistent brand voice. It's that voice that when you open LinkedIn, who do you see first on LinkedIn in the morning? Who do you see last on LinkedIn in the afternoon? Or on Facebook? It's that voice that's consistent with great content. And it's always interacting with you, and people then see that brand evolving. It's about adaptability and growth. Your brand will never be the same for the rest of your life. It's impossible. Because you're going to change, your career is going to change, your opportunities is going to change, your network is going to change. And what are you doing to adapt your brand and create sub-brands even as you go along? Because you always want to grow. You always want to dream bigger. Because I'm telling you, no dream is too big if you set goals that is above the norm. And what can that impact of a personal branding give you? Well, it's going to give you great career advancements. It's going to give you business opportunities. It's going to give you practice opportunities. It's going to put you out in a marketplace where you are known and where people want you. You're going to become an influencer. Is it not amazing to be able to influence people positively, not negatively? Because unfortunately, things like Facebook and Instagram and those things, and deep fake, and I can go on with artificial intelligence, can create a wrong influencer. Be the influencer that creates people's growth. And then advocacy, where people become your advocate or where you advocate for people because you've got a strong brand. Long-term brand equity is that thing that you build. Tesla, as an example, as a company, never had a brand the day they started, am I right? But their shareholders sat together and formed a brand with equity, and we call it in our profession a price equity and a price earning. And that means if you build a strong brand, it becomes so strong. And if you look after it and you protect it, that equity is like property. It's like that bond in your house, that access bond that you can always fall back onto. And therefore, make sure you build equity in your brand. And then the question we need to ask ourselves, is our brand really sparkling? How does our brand sparkle, and does our brand make noise? And that is what you want to hear. And I wanted to be a bit closer to you, Carla. And if you ever do that trick, don't push the button in your pocket. It does become dangerous. That's the problem when you're so far from the stage. So, creating noise. How do we create noise? Let me tell you how to create noise. It's firstly leveraging your digital platforms out there and your online presence. So we have platforms, as I've shown you. We've got Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. My gosh, we can't keep up with all these things. Apps are just coming out every day. Now let me ask you this question. If you want business, if you want to deal with professionals, if you want to deal with CEOs of companies, if you want to deal with entrepreneurs, are you going to find them on Facebook, potentially? On Instagram? On X? On Twitter? You're mostly going to find them on LinkedIn. Why are you going to find them on LinkedIn? Because that's where professionals operate. Yes, they do have Facebook, but that Facebook is for their family and their social. They don't want to talk business there. So pick the right platform for your business, for your partnerships where you're operating. And if you use the right platform and focus, so my primary platform is LinkedIn. Does it mean I don't operate on X and Instagram, etc.? No, I operate on all of them. but I focus on one platform where I get the most leverage. Thought leadership with content creation. You cannot create a brand. And my friends, the power of personal branding. And I like to see We Build Brands, African Brand Architects. What a beautiful name and company. Talk to them afterwards. I don't know them at all, so I'm not giving them a thing. But you need to talk to people about branding and your power of personal branding. Because without your power of personal branding, what are you really? What is your company really? Not much, I promise you that. So how do you create on social media this brand? Well, firstly, you start with content. You start with interacting with followers, with connections. But then you create content. And if you're only sharing people's content, if you're only interacting with other people's content, you're not building a brand. You're following people that's got a brand. So how do you build your brand? You create content. And that content, my friends, you can say, but Kobus, I don't know how to write an article or thought leadership article. Well, if you don't know it, but you've got the passion, you've got the idea, use artificial intelligence, use ChatGPT, use Bard, use Bing. But don't let them just write it for you. Prompt them on, this is my idea. Make it authentic. Because as soon as you ask them to write it, it's not authentic. You're not building your personal brand, an authentic brand. But if you ask ChatGPT, I want to write about dread disease, and this is what I want to write about. I want to write with these clients, and this is my market. And then they write it for you, and then you edit it. That is authentic, as long as you've used artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence is to help us. Be an authority in your field. When you're an authority in your field, when you're a thought leader in your field, people come to you, people know you, people see you, and people want to interact with you. And that comes over time. Building a community and become the go-to person. I'm in a financial profession. I have 29,000 financial professionals connected to me on LinkedIn. Why do I have so many connected to me? Because I've got a passion for the profession, and I want to deal with my fellow financial professionals to make sure, and that we created a community. Are you creating a community, becoming the brand? And you must give before you ask. Don't connect to people on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter, and as you connect, you tell them, I'm the best financial planner, I'm the best tax practitioner, I want to deal with you, please, can I do it? No, you first need to give. You first need to interact with them. You first need to like their comments. You have to say happy birthday, happy promotion. Great comment. That's how you build your brand and how you give before you ask. And then your personal impressions. Take out your cell phones. Feel free. I want you to type into Google something called the Social Selling Index if you have LinkedIn and if you have your own LinkedIn platform. And if you type in the Social Selling Index, let's see how strong your brand is. And you can do it afterwards as well. Let's see how strong your brand is. Now, if you type in that, it's going to bring up an URL you're going to connect to. And it's going to immediately tell you if LinkedIn is open. Are you in the top 1% of your peers? And are you in the top 1% of your whole network? Now, if you're in the top 1%, you have a brand. You're doing well. If you're not in the top 1%, if you're in the top 5%, top 2%, it will show you, LinkedIn will show you how to build your brand. How to interact to become stronger and stronger and be in your top 1%. So that's the first thing I want you to test because that's branding. And the second thing I wanted you to test, and this is the easy one, is your Google domain strength. So open your Google or your Chrome and type in your name, Kobus Kleyn. And if you type in your name, when that drop-down comes, are you in the first 10 of those drop-downs in everyone, or is there somebody in between you? So if somebody's in between you, you have a long way to go to build your brand. In the next 20, are you the only ones in the next 20? In the next 30? In the next 40? If you're in the next 50, the only one, you've got an incredible brand and you're doing extremely well. Now type in Kobus Kleyn with a long Y and see how many people are in between me until 100 drop-downs. Now how do you build that? Well, you build that with personal media. You build that to make sure you are published, to make sure you're on TV, you're on radio, to make sure you write books, to make sure you write articles, to make sure you write content on all your different social medias. That's how you grow your brand. And without the power of personal branding, in my opinion, your growth possibilities are lower. your dream bigger, opportunities are so much lower. And therefore, take every opportunity to get yourself on content. Because at the end of the day, we want to be the pool brand. Doesn't matter in what business you are in, what entrepreneurship you are in, or what informal or formal sector you're in. And that means if you become the pool brand, you don't have to do cold calling and all these hoping to get people in advertising to do business if you know. It means you become the magnet. And if you become magnetic, people come to you. And you don't have to go to them. And then you have a waitlisted business of a product that goes, and you turn your clients into advocates. And once you turn your clients into advocate, like Women of Stature did with me, I'm an advocate for them sometimes on social media. That's when you believe in something. Now, let's quickly, for the last couple of minutes, talk about strategic partnership and how to collaboratively have a mindset where so many of you are sitting here, and this evening so many of you will be sitting, and how do you use the power of personal branding between not only your brand, but partnerships, and embrace synergy. And when you embrace synergy, you transcend from individual capabilities to much more than being an individual, by being a team, by being a partnership. There's nothing stronger than combining resources. And when I talk about strategic partnership, let me get it clear, because between the people sitting here, you can already form strategic partnership. So I'm a financial planner, tax practitioner, and all these things. But as a financial planner, my clients have got needs. They have accounting needs, and I have a strategic partnership with accountants. They have tax needs, and I've got a strategic partnership with tax practitioners. They have legal needs because they get divorced or getting married. I have a strategic partnership with a legal company. There's litigation involved. I've got another strategic. So those strategic partnerships you form, and you should be forming either vertically integrated or horizontally integrated with companies or entrepreneurs in the same field or similar than you. How do you take that to the next level? Well, you have a shared vision and values. The first thing is making sure that because you can work together, because I can work together with all my strategic partnerships, it amplifies that meaning of sustainable outcomes. Secondly, it's the mutual benefit that you can create with these strategic partnerships. And each one of us have a strategic partnership we have to form. You cannot do this on your own as an individual or company. And a mutual benefit must always be a win-win, a growth, an innovation, and seeking those opportunities together to share clients with each other if it's not even on the same purpose. And that strategies must be identifying complementary strength. Because it's so important that if your partnerships have got expertise and they have a strong brand they're building themselves, that the resources you can enhance from those partnerships. And also having partnerships, it doesn't make you feel alone, because there's nothing more tough than an entrepreneurship where you're battling to get business. And then the innovation, it must be diverse perspectives, it must be skills, there must be different skills. You can't have the same skills. And it must create impactful solutions. It must mitigate risk, and it must be resilient. And therefore, having shared resources, shared capital, all of those helps to buffer those problem days. And then diversity and inclusive. Our country, the face of our country must change, as Advocate has said. It must change. It must represent the country. What are you doing in your strategic partnerships to make that happen? And an opportunity to represent the face of our country. Cultivating trust and communication. Trust must be a foundation of any partnership you decide to create a brand, an associate brand, and a partnership together. It must have integrity and accountability. It must be open and effective communication. And it must be clear. It must be aligned with each other. And it must allow for ideas and feedback to be given on a regular basis. Conflict resolution is so important when you're in partnerships, and hopefully you're going to create partnerships today and this evening and tomorrow. Problem solving is so much easier because it's strengthened and it allows for growth. Then I'm amplifying the brand advocacy. This is where the collective brand advocacy. If my strategic partner has got a brand, I have a brand, we become magnets. We just pull clients in between us. He advocates clients to me, I advocate clients to him. How powerful can that be if you're building a combined strategic partnership brand? Co-creation and engagement plays a critical role to make sure that you're always actively adapting your brands. And then Thought Leadership Alliance. Imagine you're writing articles on LinkedIn, the two of you write an article together, and you become thought leaders in the financial services profession or any transport or oil or any other profession. But my friends, personal brand must never become a disaster. Don't find yourself in the eye of the perfect social media storm for an impulsive moment when you push the button at the wrong time. So when you want to push something and buttons on X or Twitter or LinkedIn, count to 50. Once you count to 50 and you still don't want to do it, call a friend. If you call a friend and it doesn't work, go and sleep on it. And if you wake up tomorrow morning and you still want to push that button, then push the button. Don't be like a CEO of a company that came to Heathrow Airport, climbed on the plane, pushed the button, no Wi-Fi, 10 hours later, out of a job. Listen to this.
835 jelly beans. I counted out 500 of them and used those to weigh the rest. In this pile, there's one jelly bean for each day that the average American will live. You might have more beans in your life, or maybe less, but on average, this is the time we have. Here's a single bean. It's your very first day. A special day, but kind of a rough day on everyone involved. Add 364 more and you have the first year of your life. Now, for a sense of scale, here are your first 15 years, 5,475 days, which brings us to the threshold of adulthood. And at that moment, this is the time that we have left. And this is, on average, what we will do with all that time. We will be asleep for a total of 8,477 days. If we're lucky, some of that time we'll be sleeping next to someone we love. We will be in the process of eating, drinking, or preparing food for 1,635 days. We'll be at work, hopefully doing something satisfying, for the equivalent of 3,202 of those days. 1,099 days will be spent commuting or traveling from one place to another, maybe a little bit more if you live in LA. On average, we will watch television in one form or another for a total of 2,676 days. Household activities, like chores and tending to our pets and shopping, will take another 1,576 days. And we will care for the needs and well-being of others, our friends and family, for 564 days. We'll spend 671 days bathing, grooming, and doing all other bathroom-related activities, and another 720 days will go to community activities, like religious and civic duties, charities, and taking classes. After we remove all those beans, this is what remains. This is the time that we have left. Time for laughing, swimming, making art, going on hikes, text messages, reading, checking Facebook, playing softball, maybe even teaching yourself how to play the guitar. So what are you going to do with this time? How much of it do you think you've already used up? If you only had half of it, what would you do differently? What about half of that? How much time have you already spent worrying instead of doing something that you love? What if you just had one more day? What are you going to do today?
That is powerful. That's profound. Ask yourself today, what are you doing with your one jelly bean every day to build your brand, to build your strategic partnerships, to make a difference in the community like this organization is doing? What are you doing differently to use every jelly bean so that if you pass away tomorrow morning, you have no regrets? Remember, you are your own brand. You are brand incorporation. Thank you very much.